Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and today's video is going to be the best support Jakiro build for patch 7.38c. For starting items, we have Tango, Blood Grenade, 1 Enchanted Mango, a Sentry Ward, Magic Stick, and 2 Iron Branches. Obviously, this is a little bit too much for all the slots, but like I usually say, if this happens, you can just put the Sentry down, put the Iron Branch in. It's always nice to have this Iron Branch. You can forego some of these branches or some of these items and maybe get another Enchanted Mango, but we usually want to have Blood Grenade, Tango, and Magic Stick at the minimum, and then kind of as many mangoes as we can get. 2 or 3 are best because you are going to be spamming spells a lot in the lane, and even level 1 dual breath costs like almost half your mana. It's kind of insane. You can really only get 3 dual breaths off level 1 before you need a mango or some other kind of regen from stick or something like that. And then early game, we're going to finish the magic wand and buy arcane boots, and you can go for the boots early if you feel like you really need them because you're a pretty slow hero, or you can go for the ring of Basilius, which is pretty good for mana regen, like I said, because this hero really does need the mana from the mangoes and even from this. So you can buy the arcane boots early, rush them if you really want to, and wait to complete the magic wand. But obviously, if it's a lane where there's a bristleback or some other hero that's spamming a lot of spells, it can definitely be worth finishing that magic wand, especially if you bought the stick and the 2 branches. Then from here, obviously, we're going to be using all these items early. We can just default to having this as our inventory and just buying a windlace. So this can be your inventory, and you can buy the windlace even if you don't necessarily complete it, although you probably will. It's just nice to have this in your inventory at all times after these early game items because this hero is pretty slow, so you want to have this. Plus, this builds into items that this hero naturally wants to build into, which is a core item of Yules, and then eventually the other core item is Ags. And this would be like the ideal inventory, but obviously you're not going to be buying this every single game because Force is very good, Glimmer is good, sometimes you need a Ghost Scepter, and sometimes having a Pavis and then a Solar Crest can be great in certain situations and certain matchups as well when you feel like you don't really need a Eul's Scepter. But a lot of the times you're not just going to be going Eul's Ags. You probably want 1 or even 2 of these more support-centric items that help keep you alive. Obviously, you want to sit yourself in the back of the fights, but still, the enemy is going to try to go on you a lot. So having defensive items is really, really important on this hero. Then for late game items, our shard is something we ideally would get for free. It's not that it's bad, but we don't really want to be spending the gold on it. Maybe if it's like 40 minutes in the game, we already have our defensive items, our Ags and everything like that. We don't really have anything else to buy. We can buy the shard, but it's not good enough that we want to spend that 1400 gold on this item. But then from there, ultra late game, we can obviously finish the Wind Waker. We can even get a Scythe of Vice if we feel like we need more lockdown. We can get Octarine Core if we just want to have our spells up more, or an Aeon Disc if we just need to survive that one volley of spells, and then we feel like we're tanky enough, we can get all of our other spells off. And then lastly, there are a lot of different situational items for this hero. You could potentially buy Lotus Orb. That is an option. It's just not the best on the hero. You could finish a Guardian Greaves, although this hero wants to buy Yules, wants to buy these other defensive items. Going Guardian Greaves late is not really something you want to do in most games, and going it early, rushing it, also doesn't feel great. That's probably because Guardian Greaves isn't at a great spot right now, but just in general, it doesn't feel like it's the best on the hero. Then we can go for Veil and Shivas, but again, you're not really a melee hero. You're not going in melee range. You want to sit in the back, so it's not the best. We could potentially go Tranquil Boots, Drums, Boots of Bearing, but you just really, really want the Arcane Boots. This hero is very mana starved, so going for that is not the best. You could also go Refresher Orb, but again, this requires kind of setup from your allies. You'd rather have an Ag Scepter, and in that case, you know, that lasts for a long time. Maybe you could have 2 ults in a fight, and that would be great, but you don't really need it that much compared to other heroes that have big team fight ultimates. Then Rod of Atos and Gleipnir can be very good in this patch, but again, you'd kind of rather have a Yules, although this can be very good still for setting up your stuns and your other abilities and that kind of stuff. Yules is just overall better because it's half offensive, half defensive. Then Aether Lens, Ethereal Blade, even Kaya Sange and other kind of offensive items. That's more of like a mid Jakiro. It's more about doing damage, so you don't really love doing that. Maybe if you really need a Linken's, even to put it on an ally or something like that, you can get it. Blink eventually, Overwhelming Blink. These are options, but it's not something you're going to be buying in most games. Maybe 1% of games you would buy these items on a Jakiro. Then for the skill build, we're going to be going for Icebreaker Facet every single time. It's not really an option. This is the support Jakiro Facet. The other one is more for core Jakiro, and that's not really going to be very good on us as a support. Then as for Jakiro's skill build, it's a little bit more complicated than you would probably think, because at first you just have the basic one where you just go first point in Dual Breath, then you get a second point Liquid Fire, then Ice Path, so you have all 3 at level 3, and then you max max out Dual Breath, max out Ice Path, and then max out Liquid Fire last. That's usually the typical build for Jakiro, and kind of has been the build for Jakiro, any kind of support Jakiro for a very long time. But actually now, because you have Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost, people are changing it up a little bit, especially because Dual Breath, you can really only get 2 or 3 casts of this ability, level 1, level 2. You're going to have mangoes or something else, stick charges, to cast this more. So people are actually going for Liquid Fire level 1 and then choosing to only get 1 point in Dual Breath level 2 and then maxing Liquid Fire first rather than Dual Breath, because it is so good to have these 2 abilities just depending on the specific situation. So either way, at level 2, we're going to have both of these abilities just because they're so good for harassing. Then probably at level 3, you can either go for Ice Path to have all 3, or you can put a second point in whichever ability you went for first, whichever one you think you're going to be maxing out. I'll just do the typical standard one here where we are getting Dual Breath. Then at level 4, you probably want to have all 4 of your abilities. Then obviously a point in the ability that you're going to be maxing out, Liquid Fire or Dual Breath, then your ultimate, then maxing that ability out, and then you're always going to max out Ice Path second, no matter which ability you get first. Whichever one you're maxing out first, you always want to max out Ice Path second. It's just very, very good for those mid-game team fights, and obviously getting your ultimate whenever you can. And then the talents are also a little bit different. You pretty much want to go for attack range every time because Liquid Fire is so good, Liquid Frost is so good. This minus 2 second Dual Breath cooldown is not really that big of a deal. So we always want to be getting that one. The traditional kind of typical support kind of thing, if you're going for that max Dual Breath, is to get the 60 Ice Path base damage. That's pretty much good in every single game. But if it's a game where you're maxing out Liquid Fire, that if you really feel like Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost are very good, you can definitely go for plus 50 Liquid Fire attack speed slow. It is very good in a lot of different games. This is a very 50-50 talent depending on the game. If you feel like you're never getting Liquid Fire off on enemies or towers or anything, then it's obviously not going to be good. But some games it's very, very good. And then we're going for Ice Path stun duration, and then 100% Dual Breath damage and range, just because that amps up everything a little bit better than the Frost and Fire max health damage. That is probably decent, but it's just not as good. It's not as reliable to get these off a ton later in the game when you hit 25. So it's just better to have a reliable, one cast that's very big. It also makes the queue better because you get that bigger range, so you can actually sit back in the fights like you want to and be a little bit safer. And it actually makes this ability better late game because at that point of the game, you almost can never get into range to actually use it. So that's why that 25 talent is very, very good. And that, everyone, is my Jakiro build for patch 7.38c. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.